Awesome. Well, it's not quite like the best music out there, but it's what we have for intro music so far.
No,
So
I like it. It's kind of, I couldn't help but dance to it. So.
that's great. And thank you for joining on another episode. We were just discussing, I don't know what number this is exactly, but it's either high 60s, early 70s. Thank you for listening again, listener. It's your host, Stephen Maxted with a podcast, and we have Janelle Lach with Mad Dog Produce joining us today, and we're going to be talking outdoor farming, farmers markets, growing plants, feeding people, and more, and learn a little bit about Janelle's story here. And excited to have you on. You came as a referral from one of my favorite episodes on season 1, which was Kim. We still talk actually semi-frequently to this day. We talked about that a little bit, but we genuinely do keep in touch and get updates. So it's cool that you guys are connected in that industry of I guess farming ultimately. So Janelle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how this journey got started for you with Mad Dog Produce?
Sure. So I'm Janelle Lach. I actually grew up in Oak Lake, Manitoba, on a farm. So from a farming background, and after high school, I ended up in university. I did my environmental sciences degree, and I actually just about finished a master's in paleobotany as well. And then COVID hit.
Cool.
And did not finish, but that's another story. And but while I was going to university, I ended up working for this market garden business in Brandon called Brown Sugar Produce. And I worked for them for 5 years. And I really just found my passion in that, I guess I would say, which was
Cool.
Unexpected, because when I grew up, you could not find me in the garden. I don't I avoided that. I wanted to help Dad with the farm stuff. I didn't want to weed the garden with Mom, but something changed, and I just like playing in the dirt and the hard work, the long days, being out in the sun all the time, and ultimately, I guess the coolest part was I got to go to markets with them, and they, like the lady who started Brown Sugar Produce, she'd been doing it for almost 30 years now, it'd be, and she had developed a huge market in Brandon, and like people came to her. So it was amazing to see, and to see everyone so excited for fresh vegetables. So
Totally.
I really got inspired by that and by feeling like I was helping feed the community. So at some point, after working for them for 5 years, I met my husband up here in Plumas, which is about an hour and a half away from Brandon, and knew eventually I was going to end up there. So thought a lot about starting this Mad Dog Produce venture, and it took me a while, and I actually accepted a job working for the Manitoba Habitat Heritage Corporation, and was just about to start, and COVID screwed that up for me. So they had funding cuts, and I didn't get that job, and I was like, I think it's just a sign to just jump into it. Yeah. So I actually, where we're living now is on the farm. At the time, my husband's parents were living here, but they let me have a space, a 2-acre space. I worked up and started the garden, and then in around that time, we moved out here, and they moved into town. So everything really just fell into place as far as this goes. And
awesome.
Yeah, and I should probably explain. So when people hear Mad Dog, they think, "Oh, you must sell dog stuff," and I'm like, that would be crazy, because I just think mad cow disease. What do you think mad dog is like? But anyway, so it's not that. My maiden name is Vachon, and I don't know if you ever heard of Mad Dog Vachon, the wrestler. You'll have to look him up.
Awesome.
Everyone my parents' age and older, they know right away. They're like,
okay.
"Are you named after Mad Dog?" And I'm like, yes, thank you for getting it. But anyways,
awesome.
You'll have to look that up. But that's why
Absolutely.
It's not because I sell like crazy dog products or anything. I am a vegetable farmer.
Was literally my second question.
Oh, okay.
About the name. No, that's great. That's a perfect segue. I was definitely going to ask about that. Like, hey, how did this come to be? Like, what? Like a farm dog whatever. Anyways, it's so cool to hear people's stories about how names come to be on their businesses. Some have like a crazy deep rooted meaning or acronym, and others are different meanings of their name or family name or good story. So no,
Mhm.
I'm glad that you clarified that. That's super cool. What did the so you have this experience in growing produce from before, then now you're starting your own thing. What did the first year or the first crop look like? What were you growing exactly, and how did that go over?
Oh my goodness. So I started in 2021, and well, probably all farmers around here will remember that year because it was so dry. It was like, it felt
Yeah,
apocalyptically dry, but I mean, it felt worse because I was just starting out in a like a newly worked up area, and everything was like, I needed something to work with me to make this happen, but not moisture. That was not. So, yeah, that was a very, very dry year that I got started. And so I had to navigate that challenge right away. And so basically every single day, I remember I started early May. I would wake up around 5:30 in the morning, and I would drive my tractor, my water tank down a mile down the highway to the well, fill it up, drive back, and set it all up. So I run drip line irrigation on everything, and it's the most conservative way to water such a large space. So like it,
right.
a lot of people hear irrigation and they probably think of the overhead sprinklers and everything. We don't
Hmm.
actually have like a water source on our land. So to do that would be impossible. Um,
Right.
but also, you just lose a lot of water to evaporation, especially on a hot, sunny day. Where I lay drip line,
Right.
which is just a tape along the ground, and it's just got like little emitters, little holes every half a foot along there, and you just feed it from a gravity tank, and it just slowly waters throughout the day.
Oh,
So that's what I mean, that was the good part about working for a business before this, is I knew like irrigation is key. So that was definitely the biggest hurdle that I had to cross on the first year. And I had taken on 60 members. So I had 60 people that needed vegetables from me each week. And I was like very stressed about that responsibility. But I did make it
cool.
through. I was able to water enough. And yeah, just knowing how to set that up. If I hadn't known that before, I probably would have failed that first year. But I might have got on a tangent. I don't even know if I remember the question.
No, that's awesome. Actually, back to what you just said though about like 60 folks. So you're helping feed 60 people and their families. So it's like a subscription box that folks sign up for. Basically, is that kind of the idea for the summer period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started, yeah, it was 60 people, and they would all come to Plumas to pick up their bag. But yeah, it's a CSA is kind of what every veggie farmer calls it,
Awesome.
but it's
Yeah.
basically a subscription box. So each week you're getting, that year I did, it was about $25 value of whatever vegetables are ready in the garden. I pick, they don't get the choice. Otherwise, that would just be like organizational
Right.
chaos for me. But
Oh yes.
yeah, so yeah, that was 60 people that came and picked up a bag from me every week. Yeah.
Oh, that's super awesome. Okay, so it's about like $25 value every week. You're on 2 acres, and so what did you kind of like have in the mix in the garden for that first year, that when you were doing it for a variety of crop? What were you growing for them?
Every year I try to do a bit of everything, which is overwhelming sometimes. But that year I did start a bit simpler. So around here you need to cover the kind of the basics. Like people want their potatoes, their carrots, onions, beets,
Okay.
corn, and then every year I kind of diversify a bit more, and I'll add kind of fun vegetables and herbs too. And so I do a couple different kinds of cabbage and radishes. Trying to
Neat.
think what fennel, peppers, tomatoes, like all those things. I try to cover all the bases. I even do eggplant for a couple of the weirdos who like eggplant, and yeah.
How
Yeah.
about zucchini at all?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Too much zucchini every year.
I know. Okay, when you start growing that, I know I used to have a garden in my backyard, and yeah, started growing zucchini. It's just like when that stuff gets going, it's like overnight you were literally looking at a very different plant the next day when it
Oh,
does start fruiting, I guess we'll call it, or and producing for you. But very
mhm,
cool. So like you got a whole basket of goods there, and obviously like some of that stuff's ready later in season.
mhm.
Doesn't happen right away. But when does your season start for offering the packages to the subscription folks? Does that start like right about now? Like, are some crops ready to harvest, or what? When does that start for you?
It starts usually very beginning of July. This year, June 29th will be the first day.
Okay.
So I could, have a few things ready now, but not enough to
Yeah.
put together a complete bag. So I push it back to July. And this year, especially, well, every year I leave it kind of TBD until it's close, because some years we have a lot of heat in May and, things jump up. This year we've had barely any sunny days, not a lot of heat. Things are slow.
Yeah.
We have all the moisture, but no heat. So it really impacts when I can start the program. But the great thing is that all of my members are very understanding of that, and they're just happy whenever I send the email saying this is the day that it starts, and they're there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very cool. No, that is awesome. And so that was year one. That was in 2021. So now we're more looking like year three, I guess, of the business, relatively roughly. Do you have a lot more members to date, or is it that same core 60 that's still with you and like really dedicated to the program, or what? Where is that at today?
So that's kind of funny. So I actually have downsized a bit to 30 members. Well, actually, I'm at 35 now because I can't say no to anyone.
Awesome.
But I did that because I felt a little stretched thin in my first year. I also know that a lot of people were just really excited for me and wanted to support me in that first year, and that was awesome. And I really, really appreciated that. Like, Plumas is such an amazing community, and pretty much everyone here, even if they had a garden, they like signed up and just wanted to see me actually succeed. So that was great. And now since then, I would say I've kept like the core like members who don't have time to grow their own garden, have families that they really want to feed them good food. And I kind of like sticking around this number because I have a bit more time on my plate to really make sure that they get the best treatment
Right.
possible. Because that's how I advertise it, as you're my VIP members. Like, you get the first veggies that are out there and first dibs on everything and all that. So I've just found that to be a little more manageable because it is just me. Like, my husband
Yeah.
is around, but he's busy farming conventionally. So like, managing 2 acres of garden is quite
No,
challenging.
that's
Yeah.
yeah.
On top of
Managing like 2
yeah,
acres of anything, lawn cutting is a big deal. So
yeah,
yeah,
it is. And I've got to do all the marketing and all the email reminders and all the different things that you don't think about when it's, when you're looking in, but there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And so I just went to that 30, well, 35 this year, and I find that's a pretty good number. And but this
awesome.
year, doing a few less people has actually allowed me to add a few more deliveries and make it easier, because I had people that were driving out every week from Brandon to Plumas when I started, which was
Wow.
amazing. And such dedication. And I wanted to return the favor and come to them. So it's great because this
Cool.
year I added on a Brandon delivery, and I feel really good being able to offer that to some of the people that have been with me from the beginning and drove all that way every week. So yeah, that's
Outfitting.
why I go down to a few less this year, but the bags are a bit bigger as well and a bit more variety. And every year I tweak it a bit more and try and make it
Cool.
an enjoyable experience. So this year I'll be giving them recipes that include the
Oh,
exact
so cool.
Yeah, and it'll be the exact vegetables that are in their bag. So and the amounts, so they can just take that, make a recipe, kind of like a HelloFresh box.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of thinking.
But like way
Cool.
better. But yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Those are convenient though. I've ordered them before periodically or whatever, but nothing quite beats farm fresh right from there. So especially carrots. You mentioned you do carrots on farm?
I do, yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's something specifically that tastes incredibly different than from the store, we'll say. As a short story we go. But
yeah, it's not even comparable. They're so much sweeter and juicier and crisp. And I find that carrots and tomatoes, people are just like, the garden tomatoes are just so much more flavor. And then it's funny because there's some things that I'll give them, like celery, and they're like, this must be wrong, or there's something wrong with this. And that's because it actually has flavor.
Right.
And I'm not used to that. Like in the store, it's just water. Like
yeah, that's basically what you're moving around. Interestingly enough, through that process of where that's growing, ultimately there. So.
Mm-hmm.
What's another besides celery? What is another piece, and carrots? I guess we're talking carrots too. That comes with different flavor than people are expecting when you're providing veggies and everything.
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, actually, I know a good one. Last year, I decided to try and grow iceberg lettuce, and I did, and it was amazing.
Interesting.
And it actually should look a lot darker green than it does in the store. And
really,
basically no one knew what I was giving them. And I was like, this is iceberg lettuce, man. Like, this is what it's supposed to be like. And it had a lot of flavor, like, and the stuff you get in the store, it just kind of seems to leak water, and it's not a whole lot going on, but no, it was really good and super crispy, like one of my favorite lettuces. But yeah, just night and day to what you would get in the store. So I don't know what that's about, but that was a big one that I noticed.
That is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And how about this season? Is there anything that you're testing out that your folks are, you're looking forward to trying it out with them?
Let me think. What am I trying new this year? Well, I am growing fennel, and I have given them fennel before, which overwhelms them.
Cool.
So I'm hoping the recipe included this time will help them out. What else am I doing? I always do a bunch of different kinds of squash. So there's a few different varieties I'm doing. Like really, no one knows anything besides spaghetti squash, which is like at the other market garden business that I used to work with, we'd kind of call it like the dog shit squash of squash. Like it's sorry, you might have to edit out that I shouldn't have swore, but
no, that's perfect.
It's just like there's so many better squash out there and no one knows about them. But for example, there's a squash called delicata, and it's like a long cylindrical squash kind of thing, unassuming, but you can eat the skin and everything, and it's so sweet. So all you do is slice it up, you like put it on a pan, put it in the oven, and it tastes amazing. And like nothing like spaghetti squash. Like you got to hide that in something, like or you often flavor to it, or yeah. And they're totally. Like everyone knows butternut too. I do try, and that's a popular one, but there's other ones too. Like there's the buttercup squash, which has a very bright orange flesh and a lot of moisture. It's not like a dry squash, and it even makes good pies, everything. But just roasting that too, it's amazing, or makes good soup. Like just things like that I really enjoy introducing to my customers, because they just know the basics especially out here. I think maybe in the city people have tried a few more different things from their farmer's market or whatever, but here everyone's very like potatoes and beets, And actually, speaking of beets, there's a cool beet that I grow that I've pretty much got everyone converted onto. They're called Chioggia beets, but they're pink. They're bright pink with white rings. They're beautiful when you cut them open, but they don't taste like dirt. They taste amazing. They're so sweet and flavorful. It's nothing like your classic beet that you didn't want to eat as a kid. Like,
Interesting.
yeah,
That is so cool.
mm-hmm. And it's that kind of
Okay.
beet has been around forever. Like it is thousands of years old, but just people aren't familiar with it out here. So
No, I don't think this is something that we got available in the city. There is. Can we go back to squash for a second? I love the shout out to spaghetti squash. I would agree. It always needs to be covered up with something, but it is the simple and like easily understood squash of the squash family. But I didn't know enough about other squashes. But how many squashes are there in existence? Like variety wise, are there like hundreds of these things, or is it like 30? I don't know what to pinpoint this on, but any ideas?
there's got to be hundreds. I swear. I don't know for sure. I probably this year put in 12 different varieties.
I can look it
Uh,
up.
yeah, I'm
How many
curious.
varieties?
There's got to be a lot.
I know that there's lots of varieties of apples on this topic, where like years ago there would have been hundreds, but then we've kind of narrowed it in to way less because it's less common. Okay, squashes are there. Okay, quick Google search. Okay, right now for seed availability, it says there's 23 types of squash, but varieties over 100. Right. Okay, so over 100 varieties, but maybe there's like a core 23. This is the first thing that came up on Google. We don't have a research team live with me here. But okay, I was curious. I had to go in there and look that up. So, and the next thing that comes up is zucchini is actually a part of the summer squash family.
Yes.
So then we got some zucchini in there too. So that does make lots of sense because there's lots of variety of zucchini. Even when you go to the store to like go get seed, there's quite a bit of that they have different ones there. So it's not just plain Jane. So
this is true. Yes. Yes. There's yellow zucchini as well as green. I grow both, and yellow is way better.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know
Didn't know
how,
that. Why is it better?
well, a big green zucchini will have like a very thick skin on it, but you can
Yes.
let these yellow ones get up over a foot in length, and the skin stays really nice and soft. So I like it better for that, for if you're just like, if you're wanting to grill it or whatever. And then there are a few other varieties of zucchini that I grow. There's one called patty pans, and you'll have to look it up, but they're super cute. They're just like little, like they're the cutest vegetable I grow. And every time I post them on my Instagram, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute!" And I'm like, "Yeah, it
They're
is."
called patty pens.
Patty pans, yeah.
All right, patty pen. Okay. Let's go. Let's jump on this. You know what? I'll look it up after for us here.
Okay.
So I'm not taking away from
You
the
really
combo. I
need.
believe I might have seen this on your social here. You do a great job of sharing the story. Oh yeah, look at that. Well, yellow for sure, anyways. So yeah.
Yeah, you need that guy like Joe Rogan has that looks up all this stuff for you.
Yeah, we do. One day in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, is there anything else that, based off the social I see here, now you have like produce, but it looks like you have some, like, is it more like hobby farm livestock on the farm, or are you venturing into providing other farm goods in the future? Or is it mostly plants? We can stay focused on plants if that's the thing.
No,
But
if anyone knows me, like animals are kind of my passion. Much to my husband's chagrin, because I keep bringing more animals onto the farm. But
awesome.
I do have a group of layer hens. I've got about 45 right now. So I sell farm fresh
Cool.
eggs. Yeah. So I do the eggs, and then right now I have 130 meat chicks I'm raising. So then I sell chicken as well. And I also do pork. I raise pigs and sell the meat for that as well. So yeah, I have a few different things going on, and that's all just part of like, I started with the veggies, and then I just felt like I kind of wanted to make it this like full, like one-stop shop kind of thing of like you
Yeah.
can get your meat and your eggs and your veggies all from one place. So I'm kind of working on that. It's been a bit of navigating what all I can handle, because it can be a lot when you're trying to keep animals alive, but you really just want to be like weeding the vegetables that are getting suffocated in the garden and like everything going on. So I'm slowly honing in on that. But yeah, it's definitely that side is like, I didn't ever see myself getting into that, but I just love being around all the animals, and they honestly bring a lot of joy to our day-to-day lives too, just being around them. And we have over 30 ducks that free range the garden. They don't eat the plants, but they eat grasshopper eggs. They eat like the little hoppers. They eat other bugs and worms and stuff. So a bit of pest control there. And yeah, and the pigs I love too, is because if I ever, if there's some vegetables I've harvested and I don't end up selling them or whatever, I don't feel like it's wasted. It all goes to the pigs. So
I was just going to ask, those are freshly fed vegetable pigs, aren't they? Or are they part of their diet?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That is really cool. That is so awesome to see. There's some great, we'll talk later in the episode about this part about like how to kind of contact, but your social media is really cool in terms of the story that you're sharing on there. So great work
Thank you
for doing that. That is super cool. And so you started like the produce side in 2021. How long after did, I'm guessing chickens, they seem to be what I read online, the gateway animal to open all this up. But what order did these animals come in exactly? And how did that get started for you?
It definitely was the chickens.
The chicken.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, that was the next year I went and I picked up a group of chickens that they call them ready to lay or whatever, but they were at laying age. And so I just started with that. And I'm not sure if you've heard of Joel Salatin, but I'm like a super huge fan. All the regenerative egg people will know. They'll be like, yeah, Joel, he's awesome. So I've read a few books of his and watched some YouTube stuff and all that. And so he's big on, you are what you eat and you are what you eats. So I wanted the chickens to be running.
I've heard that said.
Yeah. I wanted the chickens to be running on fresh grass, and like, so then the eggs that you're getting, they're like so healthy, like they're not just grain fed, they're eating bugs and grass like they naturally should. So I bought this old horse trailer and converted it into a mobile coop that year. And so the hens, they move around on fresh grass and lay in this coop. And then, I move that around every couple of weeks. And so they've always got a fresh patch of grass and they're pretty happy with that. So that's definitely where I started. And pigs were shortly thereafter.
That is awesome. So cool. Okay, so we were not far off, and the internet is correct. Chickens are the gateway animal for that side of things. That's so cool. Yeah, that's interesting about ducks. And I don't remember specific. This is a random story, but I got to share it. I saw that there's like a prison somewhere where they used to have like dogs monitored between like fences, whatever. But they actually moved to like guard geese I think it was guard geese. They said that they get way less attached. Like some dogs could be like convinced or like with treats or whatever, but these geese are just like ruthless, and their whole job is just to like quack and make a bunch of noise. And they like lived in the gap between the fence there or whatever. And I just thought it was fascinating that these like guard geese. But yeah, I guess I think they were geese, can be very protective stuff. But it's neat that you're utilizing ducks to help clean up, basically, from what I heard, like potential pests. Do they eat weeds in the garden too, or do they know?
I wish they knew.
Like the difference between, but like, I don't know.
No, unfortunately, they don't. They don't differentiate, but they don't eat a whole lot of plants. Actually, like they won't really nibble on much of that in the garden, except for one plant, which I learned last year. So I'm always learning something new. But they love peas. So I had my peas were up like this high, and the next day I come and I'm like, the peas are gone. What the heck? Like, what could have done this? And just the peas. And I'm like, who hates my peas? What? And I quickly clued in because there was one duck came up and was nibbling at what was left. And I'm like, oh no. So they had mowed down all of the peas, but it was okay because peas will actually just regrow. So of all the things that they could have eaten, that was not the worst, but it did put them back a couple weeks. But anyways, other than that, they won't touch anything in the garden. They'll maybe like walk over something and trample it a bit, but it's worth it to have them out there eating the bugs.
Very cool.
And grasshoppers are a big thing that I've dealt with every year since I started. So, and they'll just be devastating. And there's certain crops that they'll just mow down. Like they have completely eaten all of my onions.
Really?
Yes, that's the first crop they go for, and I have no idea why.
That seems strange, right? Like in terms of like flavor, like even if you get a fresh onion, there's lots of flavor there, but there's a little bit of a bite to the thing. Like you'd think that would be almost like a turn off for flavor for an animal to go after an onion, right? Like you think more like fruit or sweeter would be more attractive to them, but
no, I don't understand it because they'll go after that. There could be lettuce right beside it, and they won't touch it. They'll eat the onions. So
onion.
Yeah, and then carrots are the next one. They'll eat all the carrots, so that's really frustrating. But so I like to think the ducks are making a bit of a difference, but because I don't
as long as they're not
use chemicals. I don't use any chemicals or any sort of pesticide or whatever on the garden, so I have to rely on these other methods. But,
Very cool. How about in terms of like fertilizer and replenishing like nutrients in the ground? Is there a process that you're using to help everything stay healthy and happy and growing, I guess, the way that it did the season before? Because that stuff doesn't just get auto replaced, or I don't know, but how do you manage doing that in the garden?
So we have cattle. So I am fortunate to have access to free manure, which is free fertilizer. So I utilize that for sure. Every year I clean out the barn. The chickens and the ducks will stay in there in the winter. And so all of that is thick chicken manure, thick duck manure, whatever you want to call it. And especially chicken manure is very high in nitrogen. So that's great stuff to put on the garden. You do have to compost it down. It's like you can actually burn your plants by putting fresh manure on. So so I have a pile. I clean it out, put it on a pile, turn it a bit, and then this fall I'll probably put it on the garden. So that's kind of my main method of fertilizing. And after that, it's basically just like cover crop or ground, like just working in organic matter kind of deal. So, and a lot of the time it is just like a patch that gets really weedy and I just keep it mowed down. And then so you just using that as your green manure, they call it. So and that I had my brother works for a soil sampling company, which is really convenient. And he came out and he did a bunch of samples on the garden. And actually the nutrient levels really, really are really good in the garden right now. So that it's kind of neat to see that it's actually helping.
Yeah. No, that's super great. I mean, you're kind of making this like closed loop system here for on the farm, which is so cool. Okay, so now we've added cattle in the mix. We got cows out there. What kind of cows do you guys have on the farm?
They're mainly Simmental Charolais cross. So and that's kind of come down with that wasn't my thing. The farm has had.
Gotcha. Okay, separate livestock category.
Separate, but not. I mean, it's all part of it. And I do really love the cattle aspect, more animals around. So it's all good. Yeah.
Are there, now I don't know that the animal list is done basically at this point. I'm just curious if there's more on there, but we have laying hens, we have meat chickens, quite a few. Then we have ducks, then we have pigs, and we have cattle kind of on the farm from like different department kind of thing. Anything else? Or if not anything else, is there anything up and coming that you want to bring on farm? It seems like that might be something you would want to do.
Oh yes. So I have lots of things I want to do. Um, I do. I purchased a goat a couple months ago at an auction,
Okay.
and then she
Still
turned
with
out.
us?
Pardon me.
Still with us?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I implied that she wasn't anymore. But yeah,
Sorry.
no, I bought this goat, and she turned out she's pregnant. So she had 2 kids. Yeah. So,
Awesome.
and actually, that was just probably going on 3 weeks ago now, which was exciting. And the goat's name is Queenie, and her kids are Harry and William, and they're very, very
Great.
cute. But ultimately, I'm letting the kids get their first few weeks of milk without me taking any. But I have a milk stand, and I'm going to start milking Queenie. So we'll be drinking
Very
fresh
cool.
milk soon. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that is so cool.
yeah, it's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
really excited to try it, and we'll see how it goes. I'm testing the water, but there's a lot of, I guess another thing that I do is I make natural skincare products with kind of like the byproducts of beef or my pork or whatever. You always get
Yeah, yeah.
there's fat, right? So
Mhm.
either lard or tallow. So yeah, I'll render the fat from,
Cool.
mostly I use beef, but anyways, render it down and I make, I call them whipped tallow bombs, but they're lotions. It's basically just the fat, essential oils, and some mustard oil in it. So it's like perfectly safe. I tell everyone you could eat it if you wanted to. It probably
Yeah,
wouldn't taste good, but you could, kind of thing. So I love doing that.
absolutely.
And so, I mean, maybe eventually if I had a few goats to milk, I could, get into making soap or whatever with the goat's milk and all that. So it'd be kind of
I
neat.
I think you mean when you get a few goats. It seems like you're on the trajectory of adding goats to the herd now. If you accidentally got a goat and it had a couple kids, which is just the funniest thing that they're called kids, but um, that sounds very cool.
Hmm.
That's really awesome. That's neat that you do with the fat too. I heard this from years ago that like when folks were first like hunting, gathering stuff, actually like bears are pretty sought after because of the fat content and nutrients that were used for exactly like soaps and stuff, more so than the other things that we see people hunting for today, like deer. Turns out, I don't know, that was the thing apparently years ago I heard to be true. So it's neat that you're utilizing like every part of the animals and yeah, and turning them into other byproducts, other stuff that wouldn't be used. That's really impressive.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Yeah.
We don't like wasting around here, so try and find a use for everything. It's the same thing with the liver. Most people don't want their liver,
Yeah.
which I guess is fair. I like it personally, but anyways, we have way too much liver because people don't want it. So I'll dehydrate that and sell it as healthy dog treats, kind of thing. So just so that doesn't go to waste either. So yeah,
Very cool.
trying to use every part of the animal that we can, and yeah. And then as far as animals go, I do have 4 horses and a mini mule as well, and they serve no like
Awesome.
money making purpose besides making me happy. So
Super cool. Oh, that is well. Now we have a complete, almost basically all the standard animals on the farm, as it would go. So
yeah, pretty much.
very cool.
We do have 2 dogs as well, 3, 4, 5 cats, and what else was I gonna say? Oh, and 2 bunnies.
Oh, very cool.
But then I think that's it. Hmm.
Awesome. No, that's good. What is that are in terms of like the produce connecting to the kind of like livestock situation that's going on, or is that part of the baskets that you put together, or is that like a separate sale for other folks ultimately on the meat side of things?
Well, it's a bit of both. I wanted to connect it. So,
Yeah.
which can be challenging sometimes. With the pork, it's like I only sell it as a whole or half.
Timing.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's whenever it's ready. But actually, so is that just last year, I added it's called an egg subscription add-on option. So people getting their bag, they can order that too. So every week they get a dozen eggs, and it's just like they don't have to think about it. The dozen eggs will be in there. And then this year, I'm selling beef for our neighbors. They do up a ton of beef, and we don't have enough cattle to really support that kind of volume. So I'm selling their beef, and so now I also have, on top of the egg subscription add-on, there's also a ground beef add-on. So every time you pick up your bag, you get a couple pounds of ground beef with it too. So that's how I kind of integrate the two. And then like the way I do it is every week that someone's going to pick up their bag, I send them a link to my online store beforehand. And so they can actually do all their shopping if they want like some meat, or eggs, or if they want to add extra veggies, like if they're having company or they think like there's maybe not enough for them or whatever. So they can actually go on there and literally do their shopping and check out and whatever. And so then I will add that all to their bag and they just pick it up all at once. So that's kind of the way that I try my best to integrate all of the different things. And that's part of like my whole goal of making it a one-stop shop. Like I know people really like convenience, so I'm trying to kind of cater to that, but make it convenient to buy local.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely one of the challenges. And then like what you're saying too is just sometimes the products are a little seasonal in nature, but with that you're getting a much better tasting product. I'm sure this is not so different than other farms that have it on, where you do grab something out of the garden and it's insane in terms of the flavor. Same with what Kim is growing on shout out to Kim. When you walk in there's just a different aroma and smell to the food. Because it's not traveled, and it's too bad that we can't share that taste and flavor almost like through screens, the way that like you can experience them in person. But I guess that's the luxury of being in first person and getting to touch and feel those things on farm, is really understanding that it's a very different product and something that's been traveled quite a ways. Not that there's anything super wrong with that, but it's definitely a major difference when it's closer to home and near you. So that is really fantastic what you're doing there. Janelle, what does it look like for like future? You're going to try to grow this to more subscription, or is it focusing on that core 30, 35 folks and offering more products and more consistently as far as that goes? Or what does the future of Mad Dog Produce look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I will probably continue to do that 30, 35 customer base. I think those are the people that can really commit to the summer long veggies, and those are my core supporters and who really, really value what they're getting. There's a lot of people I find that, they don't consistently eat enough veggies to support, like that they're not interested in a weekly bag or bi-weekly bag. So I guess in the future, I'll try and make more avenues of opportunity for them to also get their hands on some produce, but not have to commit fully, because I do understand that aspect of it as well. I should mention, I also have a farm stand. So located right on our farm. We're just north of town, right along the highway. So it kind of works out, but I have just a little shed set up and it's got a cooler in there. And I also have a little freezer with ground beef. And so a lot of locals, this will be my second year. This will actually be my third year doing that. And I have so many regulars coming through and they grab their eggs and whatever. And it's just another way that I could make it convenient for people to come and get some good quality produce and eggs. And then I'm not burdened with the time constraint of sitting there. It's all self-serve. So they just pay cash or check. And I go by honor system and I have never had any issues. Thank you, Plumas.
That's awesome. I saw this thing on this farm. It was online. Now we're probably both going to see it again. I mentioned it, but this thing was like an egg vending machine. There was like an egg farm, but they like really modernized like this thing. You could like tap your card and spat out like it doesn't, like in a dozen egg thing or whatever. It was like
I was
really
gonna
crazy
say,
to see.
I'm like envisioning it like coming down like a can of Coke and
Kind of, but it just like pushed one out. Like I don't know how it exactly
that's
worked, but
cool.
yeah, super neat, super unique. Maybe that's you one day with that technology, but that's great that you have that system in place and a great community behind you helping support that. If people are interested in following your story, like I said, because your social media is really great in terms of like what you're sharing there. What are the social media handles that folks can find you or get in contact if they had more questions for you?
Sure. Yeah. So mainly Instagram or Facebook is where you'll see me active. So either one, just look up Mad Dog Produce or it's just at Mad Dog Produce. You can check. I do have a website, maddogproduce.ca. I am not as active as I should be on it when things are crazy busy. And other than that, you can always shoot me an email at maddogproduce@gmail.com. And I'm always happy to, I get quite a few emails of people even just asking me gardening questions. And I
Yeah,
honestly, yeah, I love answering those questions and helping people out. So yeah, anything, shoot me an email and I'll see what I can do.
that is super awesome. We super appreciate you making time to be on the podcast today. This was a great discussion about everything that you're doing and how you're doing it. I'm sure that there will be questions for you around tips along the way. Sounds like the setup is super cool. If we are in the area, we're definitely going to be stopping in for an on-site visit. We do that with a couple of our guests here. So yeah, that would be just super duper there. And yeah, thank you so much again for making time to be on. And we'll talk to you later.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem.